A few weeks ago, there was a tweet I saw from dpm.lol where they displayed the most played support champion in League based on rank. And while I found it really humorous that all the low elos chose Lux and everyone from Platinum and above chose Nami, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't surprised. The support category often features a rotating meta that consists of a stretch of time where engage and tank supports are running the show like Blitzcrank, Leona, Nautilus, Braum, and so on, and then another stretch of time where Enchanter supports like Nami, Karma, Lulu, Sona, and Milio dominate. Ideally, it should be an even spread of both, and I think for most of 2026 so far, it's been exactly that. But if I could ever give the title of the most popular support champion of all time, I don't actually think it's Thresh, it's Nami. For years, Nami has been a cornerstone of League support metagame since the day she came out, not only having some of the most consistent metrics of any champion period, but also being one of the most well-designed supports in my opinion. People have a tendency to hate enchanters for either gameplay related or culturally related reasons, but from my experience, I've never really heard of any prominent negativity surrounding Nami as either a teammate or an opponent. With that in mind, for our next episode of Why Everyone Plays, we'll be having sushi for lunch today. What determines popularity as a support champion is noticeably different from any other role, seeing as by nature you're not exactly in a position to solo carry games. Anything and everything you do is to enable your team to carry games, which in a way could be seen as carrying by proxy. Any self-respecting player knows a sub-gap when they see one. Generally though, the running narrative on whether a support can carry comes entirely down to how proactive they can be, thereby implicitly being biased towards engagers like Thresh, Leona, and Pyke. Looking through the leaderboard rankings, you're more likely to come across a challenger support main who focuses on playmaking supports over enchanters, though that's not to imply you can't make challenger by picking only enchanters. The situation's a bit different. For brevity's sake, engaged supports, true to their title, are at their best when being allowed to make the first move. Enchanter supports are not as generalistic, rather they perform the best in certain situations, meaning while Thresh, Blitzcrank, Leona, and Alistar can perform more consistently across a variety of situations, Sona, Lulu, Janna, and Milio outperform them in those situations they're able to excel at. That's where Nami comes in. Nami, pragmatically, is the closest hybrid we have to a playmaking enchanter. Now I know what you're gonna say, what about Rakan? Rakan is the opposite, he's the closest we have to an enchanting playmaker, big difference. The main appeal about Nami is that she offers the benefits of an enchanter without the circumstantial reliance of one. Not to say she puts the same kind of engage pressure as a Blitzcrank, but she certainly can take a more aggressive approach to buffing her team than like a Janna or even Lulu. An aspect of Nami that most people don't think about but can definitely feel in-game is the general increase in tempo she offers the team. As you know, enchanters are characterized by their buffing capability, typically coming in the form of healing, shielding, and/or stat increases. Nami's specialty is tempo. Surging Tides makes it so all of her abilities offer a boost of movement speed if they tag allies with it. Throughout the course of a game, Nami will, on average, provide a greater tempo increase to her team than just about any enchanter that isn't Zilean. Lulu has Whimsy, Janna has Tailwind, Sona has Song of Celerity, Yuumi has Zoomies, Milio has Warm Hugs, and Karma has Inspire. You might have noticed, every enchanter has only one way to speed up their team, even if it can speed up multiple allies at a time. All 4 of Nami's active abilities can grant her passive, enabling her to better distribute her tempo across her team. In the past, I've expressed how movement speed might be the single most powerful stat in the entire game, and it's an attribute that's more frequently taken advantage of the higher up you go, which might explain why there's a correlation to why Nami is more popular starting Platinum and above, where players are generally more aware of tempo. It helps you avoid skill shots more easily, helps you to get from one place to another more quickly, and overall lets you position more favorably in team fights, whether offensively or defensively. Therein lies the second reason for Nami's popularity. Her kit can be weaponized in both an offensive and defensive manner, which you might recall is reminiscent of why people enjoy playing Thresh. Each of her abilities presents a way for her to simultaneously empower and protect her team. Enchanters can typically only do one or the other. Janna, for instance, is a defensive support. Sure, her Eye of the Storm provides bonus attack damage and Zephyr slows enemies while doing damage, but all the same she's meant to be a peel support. Conversely, Karma's more of an attacker support. Her Q does damage and W provides offensive lockdown. Nami, however, can cater her kit to handle multiple situations in neutral, advantage, and disadvantage. In neutral, she has Ebb and Flow to poke enemies while healing allies, and Tie-Collar Blessing busts herself or her teammate to do bonus magic damage and slow enemies. In advantage, Tidal Wave can be used to speed up her team and disrupt enemies trying to run away, with the slow duration increasing based on how far the wave has traveled. Aqua Prison can also make for a decent follow-up tool. On the other hand, if and when Nami's being attacked, the brief knockup from Tidal Wave gives it a distinct advantage over all other wave-type ultimates like Sona, Renata, and Seraphine as they can interrupt dashes. Aqua Prison also being an airborne suspension can block dash abilities when timed correctly, making it potentially more beneficial than a stun or root. And remember, during this entire time, Surging Tides makes her and her team faster, obviously working towards either attacking or defending. Further lending credence to her versatility is the fact that she's got a defined role throughout every stage of the game. A characteristic of Enchanters is their somewhat weak early game but game-changing late game, contrasting from their playmaking counterparts who are more proactive early but get outscaled later on. Everyone knows how annoying it is to deal with Sona constantly healing her team, or Lulu turbo buffing the ADC, or Karma giving 5000 HP shields to her party. Usually though, you can bully Enchanters in lane quite hard by attacking them head-on in 2v2s. Nami is one of the few Enchanters who can actually put up a decent fight in the early game. Like I said, she has a strong neutral game, dealing generally more damage than the likes of Janna, Sona, and Soraka while still being able to heal her teammates. Tidecaller Blessing in particular is a criminally underrated move, not because of the bonus damage, but the on-it slope, effectively giving her bot laner Ashe's passive, and again the speed boost it provides, making it easier for you to sidestep enemy skill shots. Compared to other Enchanter heals and shields which only defend the team, Ebb and Flow is the heal and damaging tool, no small amount of either. I believe Renata is the only other Enchanter with a sustain ability that can also hurt enemies, not counting like Ivern's shield, which is one and then the other. It's also rare for a healing support to have a lockdown ability. Typically when you think of roots or stuns, it's tied to a mage support like Morgana, Lux, Nico, or Zyra. Even if the Enchanter has a hard crowd control tool in their base kit like Howling Gale or Ultra Mega Fire Kick, it's more used as a heal option, not an attacking one. Aqua Prison though, being an AoE 1.5 second knockup, effectively makes it one of the most handy abilities you can have on a support. As a neutral tool, it's also non-committal. A common counter to someone like Blitzcrank is Alistar for the simple fact that hooking Alistar into your team forces a committal fight, exactly what he wants you to do. But in Nami's case, Aqua Prison can allow her the ability to engage without necessarily having to commit to it if she doesn't wanna. Her kit overall just excels at being safe, and compared to other enchanters, it's also not strictly reliant on having a teammate next to her. One more thing about the early game, Nami's one of the few enchanters who doesn't need the explicit protection of her team at all times. She's by no means independent, no enchanter ever is, but her getting engaged on is a lot less problematic than a Soraka, Yuumi, or Sona getting engaged on by virtue of her being able to speed herself up with her passive, slowing enemies with her own Tidecaller Blessing, and having two very handy disruption tools. Which actually brings us to the mid-game. Everything that makes her dependable in the early game, sustain, damage, tempo, and disruption, become that much more valuable after laning phase is over. All of Nami's abilities carry full benefit to any champion regardless of what they play. For someone like Janna, Eye of the Storm loses value when shielding a mage because mages don't use AD. Lulu's Whimsy isn't all that practical to use on a tank because tanks don't care about attack speed. Milio's Cozy Campfire doesn't matter much on a bruiser because bruisers are melee. Nami's abilities, on the other hand, contribute full value to any champion of any class. Tempo is handy on all champions, period. Aqua Prison can be used to attack or protect. She can follow up on a diver champion's engage, or protect a mage being attacked. Ebb and Flow, same thing. Healing is always nice and damage is damage, can't complain. For Ebb and Flow specifically though, because it can bounce up to 2 times, it makes her really good for 2v2 or 3v3 skirmishes, where she can typically get the second bounce off more reliably. Ever since it was made to work on abilities, Tidecaller Blessing is also beneficial on any champion. Bonus damage on hit, whether attacks or abilities, with a slow to accompany it. Fantastic. Case in point, Nami has options for who to support. She doesn't have to stick to any one teammate for the entirety of the game. If she wants to support the Sai on top, she may. If she wants to follow the Viego jungle, she may. If she wants to help out the Anivia mid, she may. Or if nothing else, she can just tag with her ADC. That freedom of options is a very important benefit to have. It's no secret that support players hate supporting a bad ADC, so being able to lead them and still provide value elsewhere goes a long way when it comes to playing a support champion. Moreover, Nami's abilities contribute full value regardless of the enemy team, which you don't really find with any other enchanter. Just about every enchanter in the game is prone to being countered by something or running into a scenario where their utility doesn't help all that much. Karma, for example, struggles against teams that can stay out of range of her W, or engage her team so hard and fast that everyone explodes. Janna gets countered by, ironically, other enchanters, whose superior shielding capability and disregard for her defensive peel out-sustain her. Lulu is only as strong as the fastest attacker on her team, but if the enemy team carries champions who can shut down that attacker, by extension it shuts down Lulu. On the other hand, Nami doesn't really have a situation where she can't do something. Against poke-heavy teams, she can heal her party. Against engage-heavy teams, she has 2 knockups. Against an enemy assassin, she has tempo to make her teammates move around faster to avoid them. Her abilities are designed around what they can do first and who they can help second. They have consistent output. Empirically, she doesn't really have any bad matchups because of that. Mind you, if she gets hooked by Blitzcrank, then she turns to Sushi, but what Enchanter wouldn't get blown up if they were hooked by Blitzcrank? Finally, we have late game. You would think late game is where a jack of all trades like Nami would start to fall off, considering she's got a bit of everything, but not a lot of everything. Yes and no. Yes in that, admittedly, the likes of Sona and Soraka with their significantly higher sustain capability, or Janna and Millia with their better defensive utility, or Lulu and Yumi with their better buffing capability, can produce higher amounts of combat pressure than Nami, who only does a token amount of each, but Nami has something else to fall back on: control. The later the game goes, the more important area control becomes. To be fair, Nami is by no means the best at area control. I'd sooner give that title more to Renata or Seraphine. That being said, she's no slouch in that department either. Aqua Prison very much is an ability enemy teams have to watch out for, and AoE 1.5 second knockup is terrifying even without a Yasuo on her team. Then of course Tidal Wave, once more, distinct from other wave-like ultimates is that it's a knockup. If her team is getting engaged on by a Malphite or Jarvan, she can throw down Tidal Wave to stop their team from following up on that engage. Alternatively, if her team is attacking, Tidal Wave speeds up the entire team while at the same time scaring people away, just like a Seraphine or Renata ultimate would. Much like Hostile Takeover, the long projectile lifetime of Tidal Wave works to her advantage by rendering a large portion of the battlefield Tacitus for the enemy team. Last but not least, the longer the game gets, the more AP Nami builds. The more AP she builds, the faster she can speed up her team and the more she can slow the enemy team. The fact that both her passive and Tidecaller Blessing scale off AP also helps in keeping her relevant in the mid to late game. At the end of the day though, versatility is what makes Nami shine. Many of the reasons why people enjoy playing Thresh are why they enjoy playing Nami. She's the Enchanter Thresh. All other enchanters have the potential to outclass her in very select matchups or circumstances, but Nami makes up for that by being generally reliable. She isn't overly dependent on team composition or enemy team composition to contribute a baseline amount of pressure for her team, and she doesn't particularly care who her ADC is either. If you think about the more dual-reliant bot laners like Samira and Neela, Nami can give Samira the crowd control she needs to proc her follow-up passive, and she can give Neela the healing she needs to reciprocate. She can empower Jin's auto attacks to slow enemies to make it easier to land W. She can give Draven the tempo increase to run people down. She can make Ezreal's Qs slow enemies to make it easier to land more Qs. Actually, one thing I forgot to mention is that Nami's pretty good at supporting AP bot laners. With the rise of alternative bot laners, Nami's one of the few enchanters who can support them very well owing to the consistency of her abilities. Altogether, Nami just works. She's one of the few champions in the game that can work with anything. One final reason for her popularity has a lot to do with culture and demographic. For one, Nami's one of the most fair supports in the game. Not saying she never gets banned, but for someone as popular as her, Nami has one of the lowest ban rates in League. Champions with a 10% pick rate or higher typically see a commensurately high ban rate as well, but Nami's ledger is surprisingly clean. She doesn't get that much backlash. This also means Nami doesn't frequently get targeted for nerfs. Riot keeps a close eye on champions that elicit frustration within players, and with no one constantly bitching about Nami, she is less likely to be hit on the balance patches compared to, say, Lulu. Chief of all though, and I want to preface by saying there's no hidden message or meaning behind this next point. Nami is a female support. Empirically speaking, a considerable number of support mains are women, and just like how men have their preferences for who they like to play, so too do women. Therefore, when factoring in the consistency and practicality Nami provides, as well as the fact that she's a female champion, with many support players being women, Nami statistically gets played a lot. It's a demographic observation, just take it at face value. I'm not saying only girls play female supports, but even Riot has said that women play almost exclusively female champions, no doubt being a big reason why Nami's the most popular support year-round. She's the most consistent of all enchanters, thereby having a very high baseline of agency, and she has the advantage of being a suitable candidate for a majority demographic of support players. Simple as that. Anyway, that concludes today's Why Everyone Plays episode. Let me know in the comments down below whether you agree or disagree with my points, along with if you think there's anything I might have missed. Apart from that though, if you enjoyed the video, I would appreciate it if you left a like and subscribed. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Vars, join my Discord server, and check out my other Why Everyone Plays episodes if you haven't yet. But till next time, thanks so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care.